Something else I've heard recently that I think is a great quote. I don't know off the top of my head who said this, but that you should become somebody who strives to um, be a man of value instead of a man of success, which is so interesting because I do talk with a lot of people who come to me and say, all right, success looks like this for me, and so I, off the bat, a lot of times these people, although it's certainly good to have a good idea of what that success does look like for you, but they jump into immediately, it's like, okay, well, how can I make my first dollar? Or how can I jump immediately into business without first understanding what I'm looking to do, some of the things we've already spoken about, what my abilities are, what my passions are, and most importantly, perhaps, the value that I bring to the table, or that I can offer others. You've already mentioned establishing relationships where the first question you ask is, what can I do for you? What value can I bring to this relationship, as opposed to, what are you going to do for me? What are you going to pay me for? Yeah. And so a lot of the conversations that I have right off the bat with people are, okay, let's step out of that mindset of what can others do for you, and how can you provide that value, and establish the relationship so that you are first and foremost giving value, and at some point that's coming back to you, and who knows how and when and even if it will come back. But it does, and sometimes in some completely unexpected ways.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. The value will come back to us, and we have to just kind of trust that process, that as you give, you will then also receive. And I think too, there's a process that we have to respect here. Sometimes as people, people that are entrepreneurs, or people kind of like us that can be bold, my thing can be kind of grandiose sometimes. And I think I'm going to go out in a month, I'm going to create this income stream and all that, but you have to respect the process. And there is a process to this. I find that we can achieve success far sooner than you might realize, but we have to respect that there's a kind of a dance to this. There's kind of a dance to building relationships. And I bring that up because if you are feeling under the gun, like I got to make things happen, it's going to be hard to have a lunch and not feel like, what's in this for me? So for some of us, we have to plan for the transition, and maybe that means we stay in our current job for a little bit longer. Maybe it means that we're smart about how we're going to kind of live on a certain amount of money as we build a business or build this kind of new career step for us. But it's saying that there is a process. It's going to take time. And so, relax and go out and have these lunches, meet with people, and then you can feel free to say, how can I kind of help you? And like you said, I really believe the favors and that sense of kind of reciprocal, you help me, now there's something in me, we call these psychological triggers. As I help someone, there's something in them that just now feels probably a little bit indebted. They want to help me too. So again, it's not a game. It's just kind of how life works. So, but it's also respecting that I don't know that when that help's going to come back. It might be the next day. It could be a month. It might not be for 6 months or a year. But when it does, it's going to be perfectly what we need and really be a huge step forward. And so that's why we're always putting things into the funnel. We're always having conversations because it will come back. It really will. We just don't know when.
Right. And I know somebody that we both see as a mentor is Dan Miller of 48days.com and 48days.net, and actually a few of his books, 48 Days to the Work You Love. You can tell that that's his brand, right? He often talks about that. He says, I know there are going to be people in my audience that are going to listen to podcasts for months, maybe, and I'm not necessarily going to make any money off of that bat, and that's fine. He said, I'm putting value out there. I know at some point they'll listen to the podcast and something will strike them, and they'll say, you know what, he said something that I know he talks about in one of his books, and maybe I'll go out and buy a book, or attend one of his live events. And he's fine with that. There's so many people who right off the bat say, well, how can I get this person to buy my book, or how can I jump right into business making money off of X, Y, or Z population. And all of that's fine to have as kind of a long-term goal, and maybe even sometimes a short-term goal. I would reorient you and say, well, how are you first providing value with no expectation of income? Now, we're not always in a position where we have the luxury to consider something like that. For a lot of people, that's, well, I have a day job and I have to be making money and I can't just jump ship and, or I'd like to jump ship directly into something that is something a little bit more entrepreneurial in nature.
Yeah.
In order to do that, I have to be making money at it. I think we can all agree that that is the case. But, whether you're talking about a book like Platform, Michael Hyatt's book about how to develop a platform, that there is a process, and you were just speaking to that. So how do we get to a place where we are first and foremost adding value, we're building that platform, and trusting that the energy that we're putting into our pursuits is going to come back to us in a very meaningful and significant way when we need it most?
Yeah.